A very short but very important video today. Watch through this because we see some things unfolding right now that's going to affect every single one of us, and this summer very well may be catastrophic. Let me jump into a couple articles and show you. I'm sure you saw this in the news. What we know about Monday's sweeping power outage in Spain and Portugal. France too, by the way. The sweeping power outage that hit Spain and Portugal this week has raised questions about the electricity grid in a region not normally known for blackouts. And this outage is one of the worst ever in Europe. Affected tens of millions of people across the peninsula. And listen to this. This is so important. Disrupted businesses, hospitals, transit systems, cellular networks, and critical infrastructure that we all depend on. And that's what we have to focus on as preppers. So important because this infrastructure that we depend on, even as preppers, we depend on this infrastructure. Think about this. What happens if we go out without power for 24 hours or 48 or a week? Or 2 weeks? When we look at cell phone towers, they do have backup batteries. They only last so long. When we look at hospitals, we depend on hospitals for life-saving medication. What do we do when they run out of gas for their generators? That's something we need to seriously consider. And this power outage in Europe, in a place where they don't normally see power outages, had this happen, well, there's a lot more to this. Let's look at this article. The mechanics behind Spain's mega blackout, that's what they're calling it. And from Brussels, they're saying the long neglected web of cables, coils, and switches that keep the lights on, well, it's having its moment in the limelight for the wrong reasons. And this is something we have to look at. This sudden blackout in Spain and Portugal happened when they experienced a significant power imbalance, which triggered a self-defense shutdown. And they're saying the fact that the lights went out is a good thing. It shows the mechanisms to protect the power grid are working correctly. And yes, it's a really good thing that we have these checks and balances here in the United States too. Because if these systems didn't kick in, then any type of power imbalance may crash the system to the point it's irreparable, or if at the very least it may take a few months or years to repair it. But what they're completely skirting the issue is what's causing those power imbalances. They're saying, look, power imbalances, oh, the grid's okay, it shut down like it's supposed to, but what caused that in the first place? That's what remains to be seen. And that's why we look at this article from Reuters. Now, I am not completely defending this article at all. In fact, whenever I see these words right here, I'm very skeptical because it's usually people trying to push an agenda. It says Spain is still investigating the cause of blackout, but it's not a solar flare. And they're really stressing it's not a solar flare. But before we even continue, I want you to understand that if it were a solar flare, I might actually be happier as far as the explanation goes because a solar flare, we're still in a situation where we can't defend against the major ones. Coronal mass ejections, we've talked about this. We're absolutely talking about a complete collapse of our grid if we see a large enough coronal mass ejection, and we are at a solar maximum right now. But they're trying to ease the public by saying, oh, it's not a solar flare, it's something else. And they're saying that the authorities are saying it was a solar flare, and this Reuters article is simply saying that's not the case. And simply put, based on what we understand and without us knowing the state of, nor the susceptibilities in large Spanish-Portuguese power grids, we feel it's highly unlikely that space weather caused the large-scale blackout. Okay, good, it wasn't a solar flare. Then what was it? I mean, overall, they're trying to tie it to numerous things that all basically made, metaphorically speaking, a perfect storm which caused the grid to go down. That scares me more than anything else. Well, in the United States, are we any different? We are not, because our grid is being overstressed as it is. I've shown news articles in the past that we are heading for blackouts this summer, especially as temperatures go up. I'm not even saying type of warming problem, but just it's summer. More people use air conditioning. It puts a strain on the grid. And our safety mechanisms kick in because if there's too much draw from the grid will shut down. And we're very well looking at that. So we talk about this channel all the time, different things you should do. Solar generator to run your freezer, have some type of solar air conditioner unit, which I love these things, by the way. I've modeled them before. Or even like the new EcoFlow Glacier, you actually have a little refrigerator that can be run with battery and solar or in your car. That's the moral of the story, by the way, is have these things backed up so you can survive. Even if we're only talking about the grid being down for a few days, that's enough for all your food to be trashed. What a waste. So at least have some backups for this. Okay, so are we heading for a grid down situation? Very well may. Because The Guardian says blackouts can happen anywhere, and that's true, it does happen all the time, and how the power systems worldwide can collapse. Listen to this. After Europe's biggest blackout in over 20 years, experts warn that while such incidents are rare, there is no grid on this planet that is infallible. And they give reasons like, for example, a hand of God, obviously weather, Human-made mayhem. Of course, people try to take down grids, even cyber attacks, or physically too, mind you. Glitches in the system where it'll malfunction. A black swan event, absolutely. And if you didn't know, a black swan event are events nearly impossible to anticipate, but after the fact, they're like, oh yeah, that was pretty clear. And that's the one I worry about. Because when we see an increase in coronal mass ejections and solar flares, which almost guaranteed will happen this summer, will it be big enough to crash our grid? Difficult to say yes or no. That's the one we have to worry about because it could take the grid down. I'm not kidding you. Do the research for years. 4 years. So as my family and I, we love to travel. But here's the thing. If I decide to go ahead and drive from Michigan, beautiful Michigan, down to LA, and it's not going to happen, but I drive to LA, it's like a 3-day drive of practically driving straight through. My van is going to still work after a CME. People think it'll crash. It will not. But the problem is not the van, it's the gas. If the grid goes down, there's no gas station giving my van gas. And now I'm in big trouble. So I don't know about you, but for me, I am seriously limiting the travel I'm doing this summer. And that's difficult because for my martial arts tournaments and stuff, I'm up for some world titles again. I want to go to Phoenix and compete. But it's a very real possibility that if that happens to hit a massive failure while I'm there, I'm going to be stuck in Phoenix, the land of heat. And I couldn't imagine how long it would take to walk or ride bikes or something to get back to Mission again to my family. I don't know about you. Are you considering plans this summer? And furthermore, are you considering canceling those plans because we are in this large-scale coronal mass ejection possibility from the sun? The solar maximum may literally put a major cramp into your plans. Because this is what it comes down to. It says the next big solar storm could plunge the world into darkness. And we've talked about this all the time because, simply put, the larger the country, the higher the risk involved. We depend on electricity way too much. We have transformers everywhere. They'll be damaged, sometimes even explode. But a wide-scale outage could make it so we're knocked out for an unknown length of time. Again, we're talking about years. And it's one of those things, a difficult balance, is it? On this side, I want to live my life and actually do what I need to. On this side, I don't know. We're in a difficult situation, but when we see the grid going down in Europe, even if it's a short amount of time and they still really can't focus on specifically what caused it, it makes me very unnerving. It's very unnerving, isn't it? So what are you doing to prepare for this? What kind of things do you have in place to protect your refrigerated items at the very least, or keep cool during the summer if the grid goes down? It's not just a possibility, but with a coronal mass ejection uptick that we're seeing, it could be a probability too. As always, everybody, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.